Hello, Libra, and welcome to your Scorpio season reading. I hope you're doing well out there. So, Scorpio season is a time of self reflection, shadow work. Just gonna clear your space. These incense, by the way, are Moonlit Unicorn Pure Magic. For anyone who is interested in purchasing them for themselves, these incense are quite beautiful because they don't give me a headache like most incense sticks do, and this particular one kind of smells kind of like florally and like soap, in all honesty. Anyway, so if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a returning member, welcome back to the Oracle of Atlantis. So I've gone ahead and pulled out your cards. I have them all laid out in front of me. We will break them down into sections. So we're going to take a look at what is haunting you at this time, what you have control over, what you need to acknowledge, your rebirth, your future energy, the energy coming in after Scorpio season, and your animal spirit guide. So let's get started. So the first card out, we have the energy of Venus with Taurus's energy and the white moon. So the white moon is the goddess of creation. Taurus's energy can be all about our physical possessions and self-worth. Taurus is also kind of like your sibling or your twin in astrology, right? Both Taurus and Libra are ruled by why am I drawing a blank right now? Taurus and Libra. Venus. It's right there on the card too. Oh my. Oh. So with Libra's energy being the scales of justice, balance, right? You have Taurus's energy coming through. You also have the energy of the trine coming through. So I did pull another zodiac card to see where your trine balance is and the energy that wanted to come out. We have the energy of Cancer. So Cancer is connected to the moon, to intuition, to our family and home. It is also connected to like our subconscious energy and nurturing, right? Where Taurus is kind of more grounding, stable energy, more about the physical body and self, the physical realities. So you kind of have the inner and outer realities here. Taurus and Cancer's energy they do work very well together, actually. So with this, I'm getting a call to work with both those energies. So with Cancer's energy, let's start with Taurus. Taurus, which is house number 2, this is the Heavenly Bodies Astrology Oracle, is all about your physical security, possessions, material values, and self-worth. So finding that security within self. Cancer's energy is house number 4, which is all about culture and family roots, home, peace, and comfort. So finding that balance of the two. You are house number 7, which is profound relationships, intimacy, and romantic partnerships. So Libra's house is all about our emotional relationships. So this could be family, friends, lovers, things of that nature, right? Those kind of relationships are your wheelhouse. So with Venus's energy, Venus I would see Venus as the Roman version of Aphrodite. So Aphrodite is the goddess of love. But with Aphrodite's energy, love kind of knows no boundaries. So it's like Aphrodite can be sometimes depicted as a free spirit, sharing her love with many. She doesn't always tie herself down. But later in your reading, you do have the energy of lust coming out. So this could be where adjustments are needed, but we'll come back to that. So with Venus, Venus was the Roman goddess of love, beauty, marriage, and laughter, generally held to be daughter of Jupiter and Dion. She was also said to have been born out of the foam of the ocean, which she was carried by the west wind to the shores of Cyprus. According to this belief, Hore discovered her there and took her to show the gods, whom she enthralled with her amazing beauty. She had many names. As Venus Genetrix, she was respected as the mother of the hero Aeneas, the founder of the Roman peoples. Under the name of Venus Felix, she was known as the bringer of good fortune, and as a Venus Victrix, the bringer of victory. She was the wife of Vulcan, the rather ugly god of volcanic fire and metalwork, but was not particularly faithful to him. She took many lovers, notably Mars, Mercury, and the handsome shepherd Adonis, and indulged in secretive assassinations in the name of love. Her romance with the hot-blooded Mars was consummated under the protection of Mars' guard, Electrion, who nevertheless failed in his duties on the one occasion, allowing Apollo to discover the lovers. Their assignation was exposed to the ridicule and disapproval of all the other gods and goddesses. From the liaison of Mars and Venus, there were many offspring, notably a son, Cupid, and a daughter named Harmonia. So I do see Venus and Mars kind of as like Venus is typically the feminine energy, Mars is the masculine, right? So they're like opposites attract, right? They were drawn to each other. But this is where Venus wasn't always like a one-man type of woman, right? She is a lover, so she shared that love. But Mars would have been kind of her exact opposite, right? So, the card meaning, this goddess represents love in all of its forms, from pure or ideal love to lustful desire. She denotes a love of pleasure and the good things of life, and a blatant use of personal charm or seduction in order to obtain them. She warns that you will have to pay the appropriate price for self-indulgence, but if you are prepared for that, then so be it. Generally, Venus is a beneficent goddess who suggests a good or fruitful outcome to the question. As a white goddess, she brings a strong, youthful, and creative approach to the situation. The nature of Earth in Taurus is, above all, sensual and comfort-loving, with a tendency to act slowly and surely in familiar ways. This card is connected to the month of May, so there may be what is haunting you. There may have been something that happened or transpired in the month of May. With the astrological influences from the astrology deck, we have the last quarter. In the last quarter phase, the moon is 50% lit, with the sun illuminating its left side. The name last quarter comes from the fact that the moon has entered the final quarter of its orbit before becoming a new moon, sometimes called the third quarter. This cycle can be quite empowering, as the dreams that were planted at the beginning of the cycle have taken root. This is a time to appreciate your growth and accomplishments. People born in this phase are typically loyal and intuitive. Which brings us into Pallas. Named for the Roman goddess Pallas, this asteroid, also referred to as Pallas Athena, represents wisdom, creative intelligence, and reason. Where she appears in your chart can help you understand how you seek knowledge and solve problems. Palace is also associated with warfare and can indicate where you take matters into your own hands, creating a plan of action around major life-changing opportunities. So I was instinctively being guided to let you know about natal charts. So if you go to Google, you can type in free natal chart. One of the first links that pops up is astrologycafe.com. You plug in your name, your birth date, time and date, and place of birth, and it'll give you a breakdown of your planetary alignments, but it'll also give you like a full-on novel of who you are as a person, what you seek to achieve, how you operate in the world. Basically, it gives you a really in-depth understanding of yourself, so that may be something that holds some keys of wisdom for you. Now we have the trine. So the trine aspect is actually a really good thing. However, this is the energy of what is haunting you. So for one thing, there's definitely this balance, right? This is why I asked the divine what the trine was, because we have your energy, Libra. Now we have Taurus's energy, right? And a trine is 3. Cancer's energy came out. So that is where I would see you find your balance. With this haunting you, for some of you, this could be a third-party situation. Most likely, it would have something to do with love, because we do have Venus's energy with the swan showing up here, and swans mate for life, right? They're soulmate energy. So there could have been a disruption within a soulmate energy because of a third-party situation, whether you were in a couple and somebody else came in and disrupted that energy. There may be a call for forgiveness there. You may have been the third-party person that stepped into a couple situation, and there could be a need for resolution there. That could be what's haunting you. You know your situation, put it into your own aspects. So a trine aspect occurs when 2 planets or points are 120 degrees apart from each other in the birth chart. This major aspect indicates a harmonious, stimulating relationship between the 2 bodies and brings out creativity and love and an overall easier time. A trine occurs between celestial bodies that share the same element. For example, if you have your sun sign in Scorpio, a water sign, and your moon sign in Cancer, another water sign, these planets would be considered a water trine to each other. So within the trines, like technically your true trine, I believe, would be Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius, right? The elements connect to each other. However, there is still a trine energy with this Cancer, because you have Cancer and Taurus here, which do create a triangle here. Now I'm seeing with Libra, with Libra being here, Cancer, Taurus, it kind of goes into a fork like a Y, which is actually the constellation of Cancer. So it's almost like you need to go through this Cancerian energy, your intuition, your emotions, your healing, your dream states, your intuitive processes, your nurturing and compassion of self, perhaps to get to this Taurus energy, to balance this Taurus energy. Because Taurus, the earth elements are typically very stable, grounded, practical type of energy, right? I would see Libra and Cancer kind of very similar, to a degree. Libra's energy being the element of air. Air can represent our thoughts, right? Very mental process oriented. Cancer is a water sign, so it is a very emotional type of energy, like feelings, emotion. But thought and emotion go together. I also kind of see them kind of as similar things too, right? Like a lot of our emotions actually reside within our thoughts. So there's almost this need to like tap into Cancer's energy to work with it, which Cancer is like the mother of the zodiac. she would be connected to like Hera's energy in Greek mythology, Zeus's first wife. But it's like working with your emotions, understanding your emotions on a deep level. Working with those emotions will help bring a balance with this Taurus energy, a more grounded and stable approach and understanding of yourself and the situation at hand. So the essence of what you need to acknowledge, we have the energy of the drum. So this could be a call to a work with shamanic drumming, journeying meditations. There are lots of these types of meditations on YouTube. Basically, they will put you in a shamanic journeying hypnosis. The rhythm of the drum tunes you to the beating heart of the universe. Its wood frame links you to the trees and helps you journey to the lower world via the roots in the upper world through its branches. The drum skin gives the shaman the powers of the animal kingdom. I love this. Your rebirth here, part of your rebirth. I mean, first you have this energy, 69, which is Cancer. You have the moon with the trees, right? So very much that Cancerian Taurus energy. But the shamanic drum is talking about its wood frame links you to the trees, right? So we have a tree here, and the design in it is almost like the DNA strands, right? So repairing and healing DNA strands. The drum skin gives the shaman the powers of the animal kingdom, which is also another part of your rebirth. You have the panther's energy. So the panther can come in actually to break through stagnant energy, things that you haven't been able to see. The panther is very elusive through the shadows, right? So working with Cancer's energy, it is like the nocturnal, the shadow type energy, the unseen, your inner reality, your inner thoughts and desires. Then you have the dragonfly, which can be all about shifting and changing our perception. And this is I believe it's a sand crane. So the crane spirit overflows with affirmative symbolism, including keen-mindedness, luck, joy, motherly love, happy marriages, integrity, and balance, because cranes walk, swim, and fly in nature. They also have associations with the earth, water, and air elements. That's quite actually interesting because those are the main elements that came out in the very beginning, right? Earth, Taurus, water, Cancer, air, Libra. But it's interesting. We have the energy of motherly love. So there could be a connection to your mother or the inner mother within yourself. But we also have this energy of happy marriages. So with this, it speaks of Venus being in a marriage that she wasn't necessarily fully satisfied with. So this could be a call of like, sometimes people enter marriages just because they worry that they'll never be chosen, right? So this is like a call to love and honor yourself enough to hold out for the right person and not just be with a person out of a need or desire to not be alone, is the energy I'm getting. Striking the drum calls forth the power of the thunder and the rumbling of the earthquake. The drum invites a trance state where healing and prophecy happen. Your invitation from Spirit, we have the energy of Earth. So when you're working with your natural energy, Libra, with your thought processes, and then tapping into the energy of Cancer with your emotions, the earth energy is going to be important to ground your energy, because both feeling and thought can leave us kind of like up in the air in an energy, we can kind of get lost. There can be a lot of energy that comes through it. So by connecting with the earth and doing grounding and meditations, you actually stabilize and balance your energy, that kind of Taurus energy. It'll help kind of bring your mind into balance instead of being when we're in our heads too much, or our feelings, we can kind of get lost in those thoughts and feelings, right? It can be a lot. So it's important to remember to ground your energy. You can ground your energy by taking walks in nature, connecting with nature, honoring nature. You can also do this through meditations on YouTube. When the earth symbol appears, it represents the need to focus on reverence and appreciation for the natural gifts that are coming to you now and always. The concrete world you inhabit is there by the grace of spirit, and you are part of it. Much can be accomplished now when you focus on compassionate, reverent service to the world. If you act with integrity, gratitude, and humility, you will find yourself more prosperous than you can imagine. Success is assured when the earth appears as an invitation. Now, as your medicine, we have the energy of the rainbow. I'm hearing monkey see, monkey do. Parrots have a tendency to mimic, right? So with that, most of us have a tendency to mimic the teachers or guides of our lives. So like your parents, for example, we subconsciously, they are our first teachers, so we tend to mimic them. But that may not be a good thing, right? A lot of our parents aren't necessarily completely balanced, so that can kind of create an imbalance within us too, right? And we may aspire to live up to their goals or expectations when that may not be the path for us, right? Your life is for you to follow your true dreams. We also have the rainbow, so all different colors can mean different things. I do connect to the chakra systems because the 7 main chakras are all the color of the rainbow. So working with chakras may be a good approach for those of you who are interested. It is a Tibetan practice, healing the chakras. So the chakras can be connected to multiple energies, different realities, even different worlds, right? But within those chakras holds a well of information which you can unearth through journeying and drumming. Don't get caught in the pursuit of the illusion of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Find the treasure now, in the moment, by coming into the right relationship with those around you. All your gifts are at hand, so obvious you may have missed them. Be true with your intentions and do not be led astray by daydreams. So this energy, a lot of us strive to fulfill some sort of legacy, perhaps even become rich, right? Like that's usually the typical goal, to be successful at something. But we can also miss out on a lot of beautiful things in life when we're always trying to work ourselves or build for the future. So this may be a call to honor what you have in the present moment, to have that gratitude for what surrounds you now and not feel you always need to have to keep working to obtain more and more and more, because more is not going to necessarily satisfy you if we can't acknowledge and observe what we have in the present moment, right? There's usually, if we're constantly desiring more and more, there's a void we're trying to fill. So instead of trying to fill that void, it's important to dive into that void and see what is within that void. Why is that void there in the first place? And then you can heal that void, and you'll no longer need or feel the desire to have to fill it with things to try to close it, right? Because a void can be very much like a black hole. So a black hole in space, I mean, you can put as much material possessions or wealth as you want into it. You can't actually fill that void, that black hole, because the black hole eats everything. No amount of material gain can ever actually fill that void, because the void basically just eats everything that goes into it, right? It's much like, I'm kind of getting the image of when we eat food. When you eat food, yes, it gives you energy for a while, but eventually you crap that food out. It doesn't stay in your body. It doesn't fill you for any length of time, right? You have to keep putting it in. So there's a need to do some self-reflection. It is Scorpio season, to understand where your void comes from and how to heal it so it no longer even exists. Now we're going to take a look at what you do have control over with the Millennium Thoth Tarot. It's interesting. I'm just remembering some information I found. I think it was actually from one of the Oracle decks I have, and I can't remember what deck it is. Libra's energy, interesting enough, going back to the goddess Venus, the goddess of love, and her seeking outside of her marriage to find that pleasure or desire. So Libras can be a very romantic and loving energy, and they can enter into relationships actually quite easy at times. But if that relationship doesn't actually match what they truly need and desire, it causes them to go into a more Cancerian energy where they actually have to see their truest reflection, because ultimately what a Libra would actually crave is a really deep, intimate connection with another person, right? So if you're not getting that with the person that you're with, it kind of causes this it's this panther energy, this like kind of like an earthquake within, that there's something that triggers you that will basically force you to acknowledge yourself on a deep, deep level and what you actually desire within a relationship, so that you can learn to grow strength within yourself to hold out for the relationship that truly fulfills you, right? Not a relationship that is trying to avoid the void within, if that makes sense. Oh crap, I didn't mean to lay those cards out like that, but apparently I did, so we will go with it. So we have the Five of Cups, the Seven of Wands, and the card of Lust. So the Five of Cups can be a card of grieving, sadness. We have Mars in Scorpio energy, so this could be the masculine energy needing a change or transformation. Scorpio is life, death, rebirth, transformation in essence. So we go through many deaths and rebirths through our lives. We also go through them in the infinite, right? So like every life we come here to learn things, to understand things more, to grow and evolve, and then we pass, and then the next life we start from a higher consciousness, and then we grow and evolve, much like the chakra systems I was talking about with the rainbow. You kind of start at the root and work your way up. So it's much like if you think of a plant or a tree, right? It's the roots that start growing first, and they're growing in this dirt. So the dirt is the soil, which can be considered hell in some cultures, because it is the underground. So your soil could be, simply put, it could be the energy in which you come from, your family, the environment of your upbringing, the things that you absorbed that taught you how to be and how to live life, right? And then that soil is what gives nutrients to this tree to grow. So if that soil is tempered with, or has like a lot of poison in it, if there's like traumas and pains within your family unit, you grow in that energy, and that just becomes who you are. But once you dive into Cancer's energy, I'm almost seeing this as the water of, like, when you like water a plant to grow, the water goes into the soil, right? This can be about clearing and purging and healing that soil to give it the purest energy for your best growth. So the Five of Cups can represent grief. I'm also noticing the reverse pentacle, which could be seen as satanic, but it doesn't have to be. The devil or Lucifer, I would see as more an underground energy, right? Going back to that energy of hell, a lot of cultures see hell as the underworld, the shadow world, right? That dirt, that soil, the grit, where you come from, the shadow energy. So by going within, you're finding anything that needs resolution, anything that may be causing deep subconscious inner disturbances within you, to heal that soil, to see through the shadows of fear and illusion, so that you can come out and grow stronger from it. The Seven of Wands can be a card of defensiveness, which typically happens when we're in this energy of sadness and grief. We can become defensive with other people. We have the energy of lust, which is interesting because I believe this in the traditional tarot, this is actually the energy of justice. Card number 11, which is your energy, Libra. But lust, it comes from our deeper desires, right? So say if you are perhaps a very sexual person. I'm using that as kind of a basic energy of lust. That lust can stem from a deep need and desire to be and want to feel loved, right? And when we don't get that love, we can put ourselves out there in a very almost hypersexual way. So there's a need to understand where that energy is coming from. But lust can be many things. Lust is typically the energy of too much, right? This could even be lust or greed. Like if you're desiring money and you have money already, but you crave more and more and more, it's going back to that energy of trying to fill that void of wherever this original sadness is coming from. So with the Five of Cups, I connected this in a weird way. I just took a little break here in between the this part of your reading. I watched the new Little Mermaid last night, and at the very beginning of the Little Mermaid, there's a quote, and it's, "But the mermaid has no tears, so therefore she suffers the most." And then it kind of got me thinking about the movie and stuff and why she would have no tears. And maybe she does have tears, you just can't tell because she's underwater. But then I'm kind of thinking of, like when you go into a swimming pool, the chlorine kind of dries your eyes out, right? Like it kind of burns. So like the ocean would kind of do the same thing with the salt. It would almost like dry your tear ducts so you're not able to cry. And crying is kind of important because as much as sometimes we like crying isn't always fun, it is a release, right? It is an emotional release. With this though, with the Five of Cups very much can be a card of grieving a lost one. And a lot of times when we lose somebody, we don't automatically cry. We kind of go numb to it at first. And then eventually, it's usually later down the road when perhaps, like a memory comes up or we want to call or reach out to that person and they're no longer available, right? That's usually when the tears come, because then all of a sudden it hits you that they're not there anymore. With that energy, I do want to say you can speak to and talk to anyone who is deceased. You can definitely do it through meditation by calming and stilling the mind. You can connect to anybody, basically telepathically. When it comes to a real need, you can, sometimes I have asked to see a person before I go to sleep in my dreams, and I will get a visitation from them. However, with this energy, don't abuse it, right? There's like in times where you feel like you really need that person, then ask or connect, ask for guidance, and listen to basically the voice in your head, or the messages that come through dreams. You may be able to still connect to them. I know it's not the same as having a person in the physical, because seeing is believing. But a lot of time for me, I will have full-blown conversations in my head with people about all sorts of things. And sometimes, like at first, when it first started happening, I kind of thought, like, am I just crazy and making this all up in my head? Because it is your mental process. It is your headspace. But I could tell by some of the things that were being said that that's not how I would speak myself, right? So it's not just my own internal voice. It actually is coming from another source. It's like the other day. I basically was just in a really lonely place, and I just didn't feel loved by anyone, and I heard in my head God say, "I love you, and you know that." And it was like, I talk to God a lot. I have been to heaven many times. I basically said, I really do appreciate that, but it's not the same when you don't know, like, is it just a figment of my imagination? Am I just making this energy up in my head to comfort yourself? But the truth is, if God exists, God created everything, right? So God resides in with you, essentially. Then we're all technically God himself. And I'm not saying that as a way to go around saying, oh, I'm God, I'm all high and mighty, because we're not. But much like a child and a parent, the child is the parent. They come from that DNA. They come from that person, the energy that person put into you, growing you. So naturally we become and are a part of them, right? So much like God, if he's within you, then you can technically connect to him anytime by going within, which is very much Cancerian's energy of the intuition, high priestess type energy, spiritual energy. So the Five of Cups, the moment seems hopeless and lost without water. Grieve for what is not there anymore. Life still blossoms even when you cannot see it. That's kind of confirming everything I just said, right? Like, speaking to the deceased or God, right? We hear the voice even though it's not physically there. Even though you cannot see it. But that is our faith, right? You can't see faith. It isn't a physical thing, but it is a belief. Seven of Wands, stand your ground, rise up to meet obstacles. Look at where you are losing ground. So this is a call to stand up for yourself. To almost getting this energy of, again, going back to the Little Mermaid, you shouldn't have to give up your voice to be heard. Right? Which is what King Triton says to her at the end when he comes back to life. Sorry if you haven't seen the movie, I'm totally spoiling it, but I mean, it's The Little Mermaid. It's been out since like 88 or 89, so you know the gist of the story. But The whole premise of the story is Ariel wants to come out of the water. She wants to come out of the deep and back onto solid ground, which is kind of your energy, right? In this reading, Libra, going into Cancer's energy of emotions and then into Taurus's energy of like grounded stability through exploring one's emotions. So she wants to come out of the water. She meets her soulmate who is exactly like her. He's trying to basically get off land and go exploring to see the world. And those two energies are supposed to come together to unite the two worlds, because they both want the same thing. But her father knows best, so he doesn't want her to go to the surface because he's afraid she will die, that they will kill her. So he basically tells her she can't have her dreams. She has to abide by his rules, right? And she rebels, goes to a sea witch and does it anyway. But at the end of it all, he saves her life, she saves his life by eventually destroying Ursula, who Ursula is like the sibling of greed. And it's funny, I was watching it and I couldn't help thinking, you know, she was jealous of King Triton because he had the trident, right? He had the power of the seven seas. But the stupid thing is she was a witch. She had all this magical power and knowing. She naturally possessed it, and yet it still wasn't good enough for her. She needed control over everything, right? Whereas King Triton didn't have any power of his own. He had a tool that was gifted to him, but it was gifted to him because he used it for the greater good, not just for himself, right? Kind of goes hand in hand with this energy of lust and greed, right? Using it for the benefit of all. But at the end, that's what Triton says, is once she essentially kills Ursula, the trident falls to the ocean. She goes swimming to the depths to claim it, to make sure nobody steals it, right? Because it's a very important tool. And just as she's about to grab it, it hits the sand, and this light starts happening, and King Triton comes back to life. And he says, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have had to give up your voice to be heard, right? And a mermaid's greatest tool, greatest weapon is their voice. That is the whole energy of their voice, is speaking the truth, honoring their truth, right? Very much the throat chakra type of energy. And then at the end of the movie, she finally, when she's human, is able to shed that tear. She's able to release it. So there definitely very much could be this energy of the grieving process for some things that have not been fully grieved yet, that you're still working through. But the Seven of Wands really is a call to honor and understand that you were on this particular part of your journey for a reason. You are exactly where you're meant to be. With the Seven of Wands, we have Leo's energy here. So after this time of darkness, grief, and sadness, there is this light that comes in through the depths of this darkness. Now, the card of lust. Control of your life force is to pursue your will. The eternal struggle to tame your power and deal with self-esteem. Allow yourself to shine with the power within you. So this is kind of the energy with lust. You could be seeking to obtain things. You could be seeking social standing. You could be wanting to be liked by everybody because perhaps you don't feel good enough deep within. And this is a call to honor that you are good enough within. You don't need everybody's approval or permission. You are, in essence, God's perfect child as you are. And once you start to believe that within the core of your being, it changes your whole perspective and outlook on life. So what you need at this time, what you have control over, is the adjustment. And it's interesting because we do have the scales of Libra. I'm not sure what the only thing I can connect it to is, if you can see in this, there's an A, is angels. Shit, maybe it's connected to Ariel for this particular part of the reading, considering I'm talking about the Little Mermaid. But then you have this like Alpha Omega symbol, or the North Node, destined to have where you're heading in life, your true direction. This could even be with the North Node symbol and the angel symbol, like a need to connect to your angels, your spirit guides. But we have the scales here regardless, which is your energy, Libra. This is card number 8, which is strength, which is interesting because this card is actually depicting what the traditional tarot card sort of looks like, with the lion, right? The strength of Leo. You have infinite strength here and divine support. And you do have control over the adjustment, your approach, your perspective. Energy is infinite, right? So energy never dies. So if we all have a soul, that soul is energy. That soul doesn't die. So when you lose somebody, they're not technically gone. Their physical body may be gone, but the energy still lives on. So you can still commune with that energy. Adjustment named. The Lady of Justice hovers over a black disc. She wears a lavish green robe and skirt adorned with green and blue feathers. So I'm kind of getting this heart and throat chakra, which I do see kind of connected to earth, right? Being land and water, blue and green. Her sword features 2 orbs. Swords being air. Orbs could be souls set between waxing and waning moons. She holds the weighty weapon with both hands. Her headdress connects to 2 orbs partially filled with a dark solution. One orb displays the symbol for Alpha, while the other has the symbol for Omega, the beginning and the end. A thin blindfold is drawn over her closed eyes. 4 orbs appear in each corner. Green, blue, blue, green. They are bubbles of transitionary nature. The harlequin design behind her suggests the notion of all possibilities which blend together for equilibrium. I'm almost getting this energy of like you are like the master and slave of your own destiny, but you don't necessarily have to be either. The master and slave is kind of a division of energies, right? The master would have technically more power, the slave would have less power, and at times we operate in both those energies. But when you have both those energies, then you are neither one nor the other. There's a balance between dominance and submission. And within that true balance of dominance and submission, neither one exists. Close your eyes and find the harmony of your own balance. Be responsible for what you add to the scales. Act justly when you apply your will. So there's almost this need to, like with the 7 of Wands, this is a call to defend yourself, but never to put yourself so far above somebody else, right? This is also a call for humility. So there's like a time to be humble, to be appreciative, to be thankful for the gifts that have been bestowed upon you. But there's also a need to find that balance and belief in yourself that you are worth these gifts. You are deserving of these gifts. Doesn't mean you're like the holiest of holy grails, right? Everyone is deserving of a good life. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you type of energy. We all go through our own transgressions, our own processes in life, our highs and lows. Everyone goes through it. You, me, everybody, right? So we're all kind of on the same journey in that aspect. Now, this card, I actually have no idea what it is. It actually didn't, when I laid them out on the table, for some reason I didn't flip it over, so I have no idea. Just as curious as you are. Ooh, I like that. We have the Devil reversed, which is kind of going into this energy here. But this card is actually quite fascinating because I just got this deck not that long ago, like a week ago maybe. And what I see is basically ball sacks, right? So the ball sacks contain sperm that fertilize the egg that bring life. One ball sack has the female energy, the other ball sack has the masculine energy. So I'm not necessarily a doctor, right? But I wonder if that's actually how it works. Like if that determines the sex of a baby, right? If the sperm comes from the right or left nutsack. But either way, you have the Devil reverse, which can be quite beautiful. So the Devil in tarot, I mean, it can be a lot of things. The Devil can be a trick of the mind. The Devil could be Jesus's counterpart, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. The Devil can be connected to success, career, and finance, right? Which could be this lust, this desire for more. The Devil could theoretically be the angel of earth. This has been our way of life to obtain money and social status. And who's to say that is neither positive or negative? That could be the entire goal of earth, to see how successful we do, like a spiritual test. This could also be, they call to break the need to feel like you always need more, right? That devil energy of needing money, social status, fame, power, fortune, right? It can go a lot of ways. I have seen, I mean, the devil I see as a bit of a different energy. The devil to me is more the tricks of the mind, the fear, the self-sabotage, the inner voice that tells us we aren't good enough, right? It's more the mental. Where Lucifer to me Lucifer is like God's son. I see Lucifer and Jesus as brothers. One is light, one is dark. They're both aspects of God himself, right? His love or his wrath. And within that balance, ideally there would be a healing. I have this theory when it comes to the Bible that it was actually written by somebody who was very greedy and wanted to maintain power. The Bible can be very beautiful. It can also be very oppressive. It can keep us trapped in fear. By like, oh my God, if we don't do this, we're going to go to hell, right? Who wants to go to hell? Who says we're not already there? The devil, to me, I mean, God personally told me he has nothing to do with that book. But that book is almost like forcing an ideal. To me, the Bible, I have my questions on it. I'm not like 100% set in stone on this perspective. But to me, it seems like if you don't behave and act a certain way, you're fucked. You're going to hell. Which, I mean, to some degree is true. I mean, yeah, we want to strive to be decent, good people. But that can also be a lot of the energy of fear, right? Keeping us trapped in fear, which then we can't actually achieve our true our true inner self-love, goals, and true desires, because we're so fearful of perhaps rocking the boat or doing things wrong that God's going to punish us. But what if God has nothing to do with that book? Jesus I see as being a schizophrenic. From what somebody told me years ago, from somebody that they knew was schizophrenic, schizophrenia can be the energy of feeling like the whole world's out to get you. Like you're always watching your back. Schizophrenia for me, I've seen it as a heightened mental ability, much like this rainbow. The ability to tap into unseen forces, different realms. And in different realms, different rules apply. So in some realms, death, chaos, and torture are totally acceptable. In other realms, they're not. Right? So when you're in the mode of schizophrenia, it can be very confusing if you don't know what you're working with. And with Western medicine, basically we call it a mental disorder. There's something wrong with you. Take a medication, and medications numb it, and you become kind of numb to life. But I'm not trying to put any blame in that, but to me it seems like it's not the correct way to work with it. So I see Jesus as a schizophrenic. He had 12 disciples. 2 of them stabbed him in the back. From what I recall of the Bible, he doesn't know which 2 are going to screw him over. He just knows that 2 are going to, right? So that can create that energy of schizophrenia, that paranoia, right? Who is it? Somebody's out to get me. Because they don't believe, they don't have faith in him, they don't trust. Which can be represented by the crown of thorns that he wears on the cross, right? But the crown of thorns, it almost rests between the third eye and the crown chakra. So the crown chakra can be said to be represented by the 1,000-petaled lotus that once it opens, and lotuses, when they open, are pure. They grow in mud, they break through the water, and when they open, that flower is clean and pure. The mud doesn't disturb them. So with that, it's almost like the proverbial breaking through the glass ceiling. So we can get caught in our mental processes, fear, illusions. But when we break through that glass ceiling, we become open to divine source and intelligence, and perhaps overcome any mental disorders. Much like bipolar. Bipolar, as I understand it, is being of 2 minds. So you have, like, we'll say your light and shadow, but once you bring those energies into balance, you become of 1 mind. You heal the shadow. It's being drawn to this dragonfly. So the dragonflies in the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle are the shifting and shimmering and changing of the mind. So our minds constantly shift and change. That's a natural part of life. Much like Cancer's energy, the emotions, the ebbs and flows of the ocean, they change. Dragonflies have also, there's a lot of memes on Facebook that'll show like a dragonfly up close, and it kind of looks like a little alien. So then there's the proverbial question, do aliens truly exist? And I mean, technically, if there's all these other planets, galaxies, I mean, we're not the only living beings out there. But also, with that in mind, to those other planets and beings, we are the aliens. But the form of the alien can be connected to the crown chakra of the 1,000-petaled opening of the lotus, of expansioning, the opening of the mind, changing our beliefs and perceptions. With Jesus, it is said that he died for our sins, or at least that's what the Bible tells us. Jesus I see as being bullied and beaten to death. He was said to be a great healer and would heal anybody, even those that tried to steal his healing energy from them. He would heal them. And they still hung him out to dry, stoned him, beat him to death. So it's like this energy, and I'm sorry, this may upset some people, but it's something that you have to consider. Did Jesus really die for our sins, or did he die because of our sins? Right? There's a lot of weird stuff in the Bible, and I connect things in a weird way. I've had dreams about it. I started reading the Bible because I come from somewhat of a religious background, but getting into a spiritual practice, the Bible it seemed like common sense to have that in my toolkit, right? But in the Bible, Revelations I kind of got stuck on. I had a dream that I was the mother or parent of Chucky, like Chucky the serial killer, the little murdering doll. And in the dream, I was so afraid of this baby, and it was just a baby, but it looked like Chucky. And in the dream, knowing that it looked like Chucky, I was afraid it was going to turn out exactly like Chucky. And Chucky's an evil little shit disturber. He like, I don't know if he starts in the beginning killing for like revenge, but after a while he's just sadistic. Like, it's just nasty. He just wants to murder people. There's no purpose behind it. He's selfish. He's a little turd. Like, if you want to compare to like Freddy Krueger, right? Freddy Krueger haunts people in their dreams. It was also, Freddy Krueger was burned in a boiler for being accused of being a child molester. But it wasn't necessarily proven. So if he in fact was not a child molester, and they let the parents of the children of the school let their fears overpower them, and they killed a man because of their fears who was actually innocent, he's kind of justified in fucking with people. You know what I mean? Where Chucky just wants to live forever and kill people because he's an entitled little turd. So in my dream, I was afraid of my child, of this baby who looked like Chucky, right? So when I was changing his diaper and he was like moving and like trying to get away, being a typical baby, right? They don't just sit still. I was getting angry with him and yanking on his legs, and I was just not being very nice to him because of my own fear. And when I woke up, I cried all day because, like, part of me always wanted to be a parent, but at the same time, I knew that I was not in any mental state or stable security to be a parent. So I'm not going to place my my insecurities and downfalls on another human being, right? But in that dream, seeing myself as that version of a parent, it was awful. Like, it shook me to my core. And I spoke to my grandmother about it, and I was actually surprised that she even knew who Chucky was. And she said a prayer for me, or with me. And then I got this internal message to look on the top of my microwave. And on the top of my microwave there was, I can't remember if it was the Bible or just a passage from the Bible, and it connected to Revelations, the the abomination of the dirty cloth. And I started, at first I took it as I'm the abomination, right? But reading it, and after months and years, the pieces start connecting in different ways. So Jesus was hung on a cross, stoned, hung out to dry, died, basically tortured. Then he is placed in a crypt for 3 days, where after 3 days he will resurrect. In the Bible, it also states that resurrection is a huge no-no. You don't resurrect nothing. And if you ever seen the Pet Cemetery, I mean, come on now. That's kind of like, there's a fear for me. There was a fear for me when it comes to resurrection, because it's like, you can bring things back, but they might not come back, as they once were. I don't know if I want to fuck around with that energy. But so there's actually a sheet in a museum somewhere with Jesus's face imprinted in the sheet. So it is believed that that is the sheet that he was buried in, with the stained cloth of the abomination. So I honestly, from that whole story, what I actually truly believe is that Jesus dies and comes back as Lucifer. It's like the gift was so beautiful and so easy as Jesus, but people took it for granted and abused it and beat it to death. He was a shaman, a healer. That was his whole purpose. People didn't accept that. They killed him. So this time he comes back as Lucifer. And now we all worship Lucifer. Which is, kind of neither here nor there. We could all be very seriously misled about Lucifer. He is technically still an angel. I still see him as God's son. I do see him as a soul healer. But he works with the dark energies. So Jesus is when you have that faith in Jesus, right? You trust in God, Jesus, the divine. You have that faith. What happens when you give up faith? A lot of us, when we give up all hope and faith, we sell our soul to who? Lucifer. So now Lucifer takes that soul and does the dark shadow work to fix it. But I have tapped into Lucifer's heart space years ago, and it was a very, very messy and chaotic energy, because I, at the time, was in the energy of saving everything. And Lucifer had brought me, I had sold my soul years ago because I was just tired and so done with life. And then after a while, I started to panic. I needed my soul back, right? Like, I'm not willing to sacrifice it. And eventually he did bring it back to me. So that's where I see them. They're both as healer, and very much so could actually be the same person. The same energy, right? The light and shadow aspect. And it always kind of reminded me of Plan B. Well, if they won't work with Plan A, there's always Plan B. But either way, we have to get there. So it's like almost like by the actions of people done long time ago, we could have been living in hell this whole time. Struggling, right? Whereas if that one action had been avoided, we could have avoided the dark age. But there's almost this need of accountability for our actions. So perhaps that is what you have control over, is the accountability for one's own actions, to have adjustments and to see within that. To have the strength to stand up for yourself and speak of the things. There could be things that maybe you have guilt over, maybe you feel shame over, maybe some of you have done bad things to other people. And a lot of times, like for myself personally, when I've done something bad to somebody else, I try really hard not to do it again. But if I don't clear that energy, it usually ends up repeating, because I'm holding that poison inside, like subconsciously, and we don't learn the lesson until we learn it. But by admitting fault or humility to the person that we harmed, we have accepted the understanding, the karma, the humility of that situation. And therefore, we have sought God's forgiveness by owning up to it. And then hopefully the next time a situation like that comes along, you have the opportunity to see it and to evolve and not make the same mistake. So that is what you have control over. So your rebirth, like I said, we have Cancer's energy with 69, the land, tree, and moon. I love this card. It's such a beautiful card. Connecting with nature definitely can have some very grounding, soothing energies. Nighttime is always, for me, it is a beautiful time. Like, there are lots of times I'll go for a walk at night because nobody's out and about. It's quiet. It's peaceful. I feel free to just kind of be myself, right? Some people kind of fear the night, though. Fear that they'll get attacked or something, hoodlums, whatever. That's honestly never happened to me. I mean, the one time that I remember being like threatened, I actually had a guy in Lethbridge here, actually. I was walking to work, broad daylight, listening to my Discman at the time. And this guy came up and threatened to shank me. He was like, I'll take you to the back alley and shank you. Like, I'm like, what the fuck did I do to you? But anyway. So there's like this, the dark can be scary. But it doesn't necessarily have to be. However, when it comes to our subconscious, it usually is scary. That's where our fears, our shame, our traumas are usually lurking in the darkness. But thankfully, you have this panther with you. Cats are nocturnal. Well, I shouldn't say. It's not necessarily that they're nocturnal creatures, but they can see in the dark. They can see through the illusions. They are adept in the dark. This card is card number 69, which is the symbol for Cancer. 69 or B9. B9 can actually be like a tumor before it hits cancerous state. So by working with your internal energies, expressing your truth, working with the chakra systems, doing your own inner healing, becoming your own shaman, you can potentially cure cancer from within. Right? So a lot of my spiritual journey, I did have a partner at the time whose mother died of stage 4 cancer. And then it was a few years later, an aunt of mine died of stage 4 cancer. But it was my partner's mother that I started getting into more of like the spiritual energies of why. Why it happens. And then I started to notice, I mean, I couldn't help but notice I am a sun sign Cancer, and the sun sign Cancer is spelled exactly the same as the disease Cancer, which is connected to moon, intuition, the heart and soul type of energy. So we all have Cancer cells in our body. They're always there. So, like, from my perspective, if we're not working with and honoring our energy correctly, it can it can birth cancer, right? And then I looked up in this energy, 69, which is the Cancerian symbol, could also be B9. And when I researched B9, because B9, from what I understood, it was like a tumor or some sort of like disease that's not active, right? Like it's there, but it's not causing harm, is what I understood it. So I wanted to look it up just to see. And it did say something about B9 actually is like, can be connected to like I believe it was like a tumor before it goes into full-blown cancer. So it's like preventing disaster before it strikes. And it's kind of going back to, it's funny, this energy of Jesus, right? Jesus on the cross, if somebody had taken him down from the cross, or just not put him up there in the first place, we could have avoided perhaps the potential of the resurrection of the devil or Lucifer, however you want to look at it, which could have potentially put us on a very dark path. Who's to say? I mean, if we were on the dark path, we needed to be on the dark path in the first place. But had we have not killed God's son in the first place, we wouldn't have been tortured. Kind of makes sense. It's kind of like going back to this energy of Cancer. If we work with the energies within and understand our emotions ourselves on a deeper level, then we heal ourselves from within and don't need to fall to like sickness. I do see Cancer as a very faith-based disease, and the energy of Cancer is all about faith, intuition, emotions, healing, right? It's like the ocean. When you look at the ocean, there's not a whole lot going on, but beneath the surface, there's way more going on in that world, more likely than on the physical, like, land, right? There's so much going under. So still waters run deep. So deep within you is all you need to know. And when you start to honor and acknowledge that energy, you change your own fate. For some of you, going back to this energy of lust and the card of adjustment, I don't know about for most of you. For me, I've gone on a very lustful path, and it's a deep desire to want to connect with somebody on a deeper level, but it never happens, so I settle. I settle for sex because at least sex in that moment you feel wanted, even if it's only for an hour, right? Somebody at least wants to be with you enough to have sex with you, right? But it's going back to that void of needing and wanting to be desired, to be wanted, to be loved, right? It's funny how that deeper subconscious needs, desires, and wants can lead to sometimes very self-destructive patterns. And when I say self-destructive, I'm not saying sex is self-destructive, especially if you're smart about it and you're with responsible people. But I myself haven't always been responsible. I've contracted STIs, diseases, good times, right? But that's also an energy of not loving myself enough to have those boundaries. So because the majority of people are trapped behind the veil of the five senses, most of them have no idea of the amount of knowledge and guidance that is available to them at any moment. Nature is awash with hidden messages and wisdom, especially trees, because they live so long and stand so tall, which allows them a much more expansive perspective than most people can access. While some people seek knowledge in books and universities, you are being called to the forest, my love. Go spend some time with the trees, preferably at night. The trees have many lessons to share with you to help you heal and to lift your spirits. Breathe deeply and direct your exhale on the molten mosaic of the bark. This will allow you to synchronize your vibration with the tree. This will open you up to be able to receive its knowledge in ancient wisdom that transcends the cognitive knowing of the mind. This is really reminding me of the energy of the division between science and faith. So there are people out there that are more scientific, where they believe in logical approaches, mathematical equations, scientific reasoning. They don't necessarily believe in like God, the divine, universe, source, more faith. But the thing is, the Atlanteans were said to have, or were they science priests? So those energies were not divided in ancient times. They were of one. So they both play a role, right? But when it comes to science, I mean, I don't believe that somebody can be a scientist without some sort of faith backing it up, right? Like if you're doing experiments and trying to find something, then you must have the faith to believe that there's something to find, right? I mean, that does make sense. Maybe you don't believe in God or Jesus, and you don't necessarily need to. All you really need to know is there's something bigger out there than you. There is energy, and it comes from somewhere. It's not necessarily who or what you believe in. It's just that you do believe. You have that faith. So we're going to jump to the land animal earth, since it's already showing itself. The Earth's ecosystem is extremely intelligent in its design. Every animal that exists on this planet is here for a very specific, very necessary reason. It is the same with the plants and the insects and the minerals and all of it. This means that when we harm the animals, we harm ourselves, and we harm our planet, and we harm all the life it holds. What are you doing to help balance the ecosystem? Are you inadvertently supporting factory farming and industrialized meat production with the foods you eat and restaurants you frequent? Are you still consuming single-use plastics? Do you recycle, reuse, replant, and compost? Do you mend your holy socks, or do you throw them away and go to your local corporate superstore to buy new ones that were made at a factory in China? What are you doing to balance the scales so that every being on the planet can thrive in harmony? Your actions really do matter, my love, every one of them. So with this energy, I mean, we're not all just going to change and shift overnight and just be smarter about the resources. It takes time. It's a progression, right? But there are little things you can do. For me, plastic is a big one, because plastics don't always break down. Glass, like the difference between glass and plastic is a man-made creation. Glass, I mean, but it's kind of a natural resource too, right? So if you throw glass and plastic in the ocean, eventually the glass is going to break down and become sand. It will break down over time. Plastic doesn't. It pollutes, it leaks toxins. So with that, I mean, ideally, hopefully we would use less plastics. Like when it comes to consumerism, which can be very much this devil energy. Capitalism, consumerism. Everything we buy is usually wrapped in some pretty plastic. Which is like, can't we use different plastics, or at least plastics that are like compostable, is that the right word? Plastics that do break down over time. So with this, there's an energy to be a little more conscious of just little things. So glass and plastic, say you have a juice jug. You need to buy a new juice jug, and you have the option between glass or plastic. Why not get a glass juice jug? You know, the other day I use disposable razors for shaving, because honestly I like them better than the other razors that you just buy new blades for. Plus the new blades are always super expensive. The reusable ones are cheaper. But then the last time I needed more razors, the same company that I buy disposable razors from came out with a razor blade with what they came with. I think it came with 13 blades for $25. And usually, like Gillette razors, to buy a new cartridge, I think for like 4 blades alone is at least $25. Like, they're stupid expensive for something that we maybe isn't truly a necessity, but it's something that a lot of us use, right? Like, it's like underwear. We're all required to wear them, but underwear can be super expensive, which is dumb. The things that we need cost us a fortune. So I bought a razor that wasn't disposable. To be honest, there are things that I like and don't like about it. They have 5 blades, so I feel like I get less razor burn irritation. But I also am a male, and I'm only shaving my neck, and I need a clean line for my beard. I can't really see the edge of the razor, and it's kind of hard to get that cleaner line with the new razor. Anyway, but there's like little things like that really aren't that hard. For me, recycling, I was recycling everything for a while there, and I mean, I kind of got tired of it. A lot of it, the town that I lived in changed their recycling bins and stuff, and I was just like, oh, good God. But the biggest thing I recycle is plastic and tin, like soup cans, because I don't know if those would break down. I know they rust over time, so they probably would break down. But plastic and metal are the 2 main things I recycle. Paper, I really don't care about. Paper, I was recycling it. Now I'm just throwing it in the trash, because honestly, paper comes from trees, and trees are of the earth, so eventually that paper is going to break down regardless. If it ends up in the landfill, it shouldn't really throw anything off balance. You know what I mean? For those of you who have a fire pit, burn the shit out of everything. Like, if I had a fire pit, I'd be burning it all. Like, they say you're not supposed to burn plastic, but let me tell you, you can burn plastic, and it will burn and disappear. It'll also leach toxins into the air, but then the trees are there to clean the air, right? And it's just being conscious of taking those small steps to try and do your part, because if everyone does their part, eventually we all change how we operate in the world. We can come up with better ways of doing things. It's like the oil and gas industry, right? That's kind of a divided perspective. Some people really against it. Some people are all for it. I was against it for a little while until I started to put things together. The gas comes from oil in the ground. The oil in the ground can actually, it can smother our crops, right? Like, if you think of like a fish's gills, if you put oil on the fish, that fish can't breathe. It does the same to the dirt, right? So by extracting the oil from the dirt and burning it off, yes, it can be contributing to global warming in the ozone layer and all that stuff, but it's actually probably less harmful being burned off in the air than it is sitting in our soil. So there's an evolutionary process to everything. Companies are starting to come out with more electric vehicles. It's a newer concept, right? So they may not be perfect in the beginning, but eventually they'll get better and better and better and less emissions. But it's not going to happen overnight. And let's be honest, the world ain't going to go around giving everyone a free electric car. And even if they do, we end up with all this garbage of the old gasoline-driven cars. They're just going to end up in a dump and causing a problem too. So kind of allowing things to progress naturally is probably for the best for everyone. But there's just little things that you can just be a little more conscious about and try to, if you have the option between paper or plastic, like, be conscious of it. Me, myself, personally, when I go to a grocery store, I hate paper bags. They're so inconvenient because they don't have handles, right? You only got 2 arms. A plastic bag, I mean, I can carry 100 plastic bags. Well, maybe not 100, but then with that, like, I have cats. So I have litter boxes. So I have to scoop those litter boxes every few days. Otherwise, they start to stink. And if your cat's litter boxes get too dirty, they will piss in your house. And then that smell stays in your house basically permanently. You can never get rid of it. So I keep on top of the litter box. I scoop it frequently so I don't have to dump out all the litter at once, because as much fun as it is paying for dirt, it is expensive, or it gets expensive. So when I was scooping it, I was using grocery plastic shopping bags to scoop the litter box, throw it in there, throw it in the garbage. Now, where I live, most of these stores are no longer using plastic bags for landfill reasons. And then I started thinking, well, fuck, what am I going to do with this kitty litter? And then I had the idea, like, I wonder if I can get those, like, compost bags, because you can get those little, like, compost bins for your counter, and then you put bags in them to put your food products in there and throw them out. I was thinking, like, the compost bags have to be compostable. Otherwise, like, that makes no sense, right? So now that's what I use. I use compost bags for my kitty litter box. So I throw the crap in there, tie it up, throw it in the garbage. It ends up in the landfill. Eventually, over time, that plastic should break down. Bada bing, bada boom. And then the pee and crap goes back to the earth with the dirt it's in. So, I find it interesting. We have the fire candle of Earth. I'm just seeing the energies of the masculine and feminine energies here, like starting to come together. I see the silver as more of the feminine energy, whereas gold is more the masculine. It is said that the feminine energy is dark, cold, passive, whereas the masculine energy is more fire, drive, aggressive. So the flame from one candle can be used to light 100 more. This is how a single light illuminates the way. Do you see where I'm going with this, dear one? In order to create the change that this world is calling for, it is time for you to shine brightly and to share your light and to ignite the flame of awakening in others. You, yes, you, are a leader. Born from the flame of truth and forged with the courage and the strength to do what you came to this planet to do. Live giant, light the flames of others, and be a lit leader of legacy. The time is now. Which brings us into the Water, River, Earth, number 28. The cycles of creation. I'm getting that from the 28, so 2 plus 8 is a 10. The end and the beginning simultaneously. And didn't we have that? We had that coming through with... It was one of these cards. Was it this card? I think it was one of these cards. The beginning and the end. The cycles of creation. So with this, like I said, I see the kind of, what is it called? The double helix, the DNA strands. So the DNA in which we're born, we have the power of choice from our mental properties to heal and alter these strands, to purify anything that needs to be released and let go of. Heal old karmic ties, release old karma, absorb lessons, evolve, and move forward. Shamans are trained to see beyond third-dimensional contracts and constraints, so they can perceive what is happening beyond the veil multidimensionally. Dear human, if you could see all the resources, gifts, and potential that your vessel holds, yes, yours, you would literally bow before yourself in awe and wonder. You carry within you an overwhelming spring of mental, emotional, and spiritual technology that you have inherited from your ancestors and accumulated through your own experience. There is no need to seek outside for help or answers or knowledge. You have everything you could possibly need inside of you. Tap into what you already know and what you already hold in your heart and spirit. Share and expand your inner resources so as to allow them to grow. The more you consult with yourself instead of seeking external support, the more your inner knowingness expands. Bringing us back to this energy of the lust, right? I did mention seeking validation, the need to be loved, wanted, and accepted by others, when this kind of goes back to the energy of feeling validation within ourselves, loving ourselves, accepting ourselves. Eventually, you would no longer need the confirmation or the, what's the word? Validation from others, right? Because you have it within yourself. It's kind of reminding me of like the God's energy or the Creator's energy, right? Seeking externally for his or her, I do see God as a man, approval. But if everything is made of God and we are God, by approving of ourselves, God is confirming that validation from within, if that makes sense. Shadowscapes, Companion Tarot, what is on the horizon in your future? We have the Five of Cups showing up again. Right? Sadness and grief. The only thing is, once we finally accept this sadness and grief, the final stage of grieving, she is supposed to let go of this fish in the bowl because there's new things coming in for her. There's also a bowl of fish behind her. So this person, this thing that we're grieving, whether it's a person, a situation, a job, whatever it is, although it seems very important, once we release it, we will acknowledge that there are still people, situations, and opportunities for us. We're not perhaps as alone as we feel. So this is the energy coming in. So you may not be through this energy, but it is happening. Then we have the Three of Pentacles. So this is working and collaborating with others. Finding others that share perhaps some sort of vision that you wish to create. This may be somebody that kind of lifts you up and inspires you to keep going, to manifest, to create We have the Seven of Swords. So the Seven of Swords can be a card of lies and deception. There is a thief in this card stealing one of these swords. However, the swan, which is interesting, is guarding the only truth that matters. So whatever this lies and deceptions are, the real truth will remain true and prevail. It's almost like this energy of karma will sort out the details. You don't even have to worry about it. And you have the Two of Wands, looking to the future with hope. This may, for some of you, be a call to travel. You may be changing location. But the Two of Wands typically features a man holding, I can't remember if he's holding a wand in one hand, but he's holding the world in the other hand. So it's like seeing and honoring the world as like a sacred gift. Everything has its rhythm and its cycles. We can do our part in any given moment to do the best to keep it healthy and thriving. But certain things are perhaps out of our control. To have trust and see the beauty in the natural design of the world itself. So this is the energy that's coming in for you. Like it's like this is your shift in vibration and how you view and approach life. Your spirit guide, we have the energy of the bee. So bees are hardworking, dedicated. They pollinate. They bring honey. People have a fear that bees are dying off. This is one of the things that I feel like we need to stop playing God with. Throughout the history of time, species have died off. Right? Like one of the cards said that there's a reason for every animal, for every species. There's a necessary role, right? Bees pollinate, they bring honey, they do a lot of good things, but they're also not the only insects that pollinate. So even if we lose them, doesn't mean we lose pollination. So if they do die off, it's meant to be. Earnest, hardworking, and democratic, the bee personality is a delight to be around, especially when there's a team project on the horizon. Team project on the horizon. Bees love to work steadily and thoughtfully until the final task is complete. They are sensitive creatures, aware of many subtleties at once. Since they're artists at heart, they usually add creative details to the overall vision. For the most part, they have bustling, joyous personalities until they're too tired from all the work. Then they gripe and then they sting. When in balance, content, active, and vibrant. When out of balance, overworked and annoyed. To bring into balance a mini vacation, we have 159, which I was actually seeing it as 14, which is the card of temperance. So temperance is that balance, right? Adjustment. So, which makes sense for those of you that may be workaholics. There's a need to take the time to rest, vacation. There's a reason why you need to take rest and vacation. There's also this energy of sickness. If we work ourselves too hard, we can become sick because we don't take the time to recuperate. There's a saying, something like, if you don't take time for your health, God will force you to make time for your sickness. Something to that effect. So if you burn yourself ragged, run yourself stupid, eventually you're gonna get sick from doing this because you're exerting too much energy. So that's that balance between the yin and yang, right? The yang is said to be the more active, productive type of energy, where the yin is more the receptive energy, where it kind of sits back, meditation, relaxation, rest, and recovery. So the balance between both, knowing when to push and when to pull. I am going to pull you one more closing message, because I'm very curious to see which flower this bee is flying to. So this is the language of flowers. I'm going to take this out of here. Where's this bee going? What's the closing message for Libra? Which flower this bee gonna pollinate? Stop and smell the flowers. So it's interesting. I was kind of getting this image in my head, and this is the question basically that I asked that the card actually flew out on, was where is this bee stopping along its journey? Like a pit stop, right? We have the everlasting daisy of fortitude. Be brave and dig deep. So this is very much going back to that energy of that lower world soil type of energy. Digging deep into your subconscious, your emotions, your traumas, fears, insecurities, to do what you can in the moment to heal and find and make peace with it, so that you can strengthen your roots, your foundation. So there you have it, Libra. I'm going to end the video here because my phone is going to die. So if you resonated with this reading, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Many blessings. Live, love, and light. Take care.